Hey everyone, I'm back for another video. It's been a pretty um busy few weeks, but it is playoff time and I wish I got one out before the NBA playoffs, but I'll definitely get some content out soon. It's gonna be a really busy week for me with the Rangers and everything, but I'm gonna quickly do my Stanley Cup playoff predictions. I think that these playoffs are going to be like everyone really interesting, really exciting. I think when you look at these series, you could definitely see some upset potential. There's major questions. Can anybody beat Boston? Boston just put together the best regular season ever. Can anybody beat them? Maybe. And so we're just gonna go through it one by one and do this very quickly. It won't take very long. But here's my predictions. I wanted to get this out before the game starts tomorrow. So we'll go West and East. Comes first game or first series, Colorado Avalanche versus Seattle Kraken. And this is the first time the Kraken have ever made the playoffs. They have stars like Matty Beniers, who's going to win the Calder Trophy if I had to bet, and Jared McCann, who had over 40 goals this season. They have Philip Grubauer in goal, who had a better season than last year. Again, his first season in Seattle was not very good. And I think Seattle's a very fast team that's very opportunistic. I just think when you look at Colorado, they have the cup experience. They obviously won the cup last year. They're very similar. They're getting everyone back from injury. They really struggled with injuries in midway through the year. And they're really hot. That allowed them to win the Central Division. And so I think Colorado does win this game. I meant this series. I think they win this series in 5 or 6 games. I don't think it's a sweep, though. I think that Seattle's one of those teams that fights till the end, and I think you'll see it. Dallas, Minnesota. So Dallas is a really disciplined team under Pete DeBoer. They play really good defense. They have stars like Jason Robertson, Tyler Seguin, and Jake Ottinger is the better goalie in this matchup, even though Minnesota does have a very reliable combination of Philip Gustafson and Marc-Andre Fleury. I think that you just look at those teams, and I think that Dallas is better. I think that Dallas, they have a better power play. They obviously have a better PK. I think Jason Robertson's the best player in the series. I think that Kirill Kaprizov is also up there, but I do go towards the Stars. I think the Stars are a more well-rounded team. Moving on to the Central, Vegas versus Winnipeg. I'm gonna go Vegas here. I think Vegas isn't the best, if not the second best team in the West right now. Even though I do think they'll struggle against spoiler alert, Edmonton, but I think that Jack Eichel is bound for a bounce back playoffs. I think that their goaltending situation figured out. Jonathan Quick's been better as of late. I don't think they'll stand too much of a problem with Winnipeg, who really put it all out there during the regular season. Moving on, Edmonton versus the Kings. This is a really intriguing matchup. They went to 7 games last year, and I think the Kings got better, and the Oilers stayed pretty much the same. I do think the Oilers I do think the Kings with Jonas Korpisalo have a better goaltending, but I think that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are too much. So give me Edmonton. And then here, Colorado in 5, Dallas in 7, Vegas in 6, Edmonton in 7, or actually Edmonton in 6. I do think they get it done in 6. Moving on, Colorado, Dallas. Is this where I think the Stanley Cup champs go out? Yeah, I do. I think that Dallas has the better goaltender, and I think goaltending is going to matter in this. I think that Dallas is a better defensive team too. They have a lot of guys out there. They have a lot of guys that could score, and I think they could take it to Colorado, and that's why they were leading the division. Colorado just squeaked past them for the Central, but I do think Dallas beats them here. I think that Jake Ottinger is going to make the difference in the series. I think Dallas wins in 7 games, and Dallas and Colorado, the last time they played in Game 7, Dallas won in the bubble in overtime. So give me Dallas here. I do think Dallas wins in 7 games. Vegas, Edmonton. I'm actually going to pick the Oilers. I know I just said Vegas is one of the best teams in the West, but I think that Vegas has always struggled in the playoffs since making the Stanley Cup. I think Edmonton has a bit more experience. They definitely are out for blood. They have the best 2 players in the series, and Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Jack Campbell, or Stuart Skinner, whoever it is, has been a reliable goalie. I'm going to go Edmonton here. Then moving on. By the way, Dallas in 7, Edmonton in 6. Then Dallas versus Edmonton. This is a very interesting matchup because you're looking at a Dallas team that's really disciplined, checks well, plays good defense, very opportunistic. You're looking at an Edmonton team that's Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the offensive firepower, number 1 power play in the league. I do have to lean towards the offense here. I do think this is the year where the Oilers break through because even though they don't have the best defense in the league, they're playing a lot better. They had Stuart Skinner, who was an all-star goalie. Him or Jack Campbell both are really reliable options. I think that they have the 2 best players in the series. I do think Jake Ottinger is the best goalie in the series, not even close, but I do like the Oilers here. I think the Oilers will win and make their first Stanley Cup in a while, their first with Connor McDavid. Then that's going to go 7, by the way. I fully believe that series goes 7. and the Oilers will win. Moving on to the Eastern Conference. So Boston, Florida. I think that Boston had the best regular season ever. I think Florida is a team that, one, is very good offensively, but two, does not play good defense, and they have their defensive lapses. They're towards the bottom of the league in that category. I think Boston takes care of them pretty easily. I think Boston wins in 5. Toronto, Tampa Bay Lightning. Toronto hasn't won a first-round series in 18 years. I do think this is the year that it changed. I think the Lightning have been a very bad away from home. They're under 500 away from home. I think Toronto has home ice. That wasn't a problem for Tampa Bay last year. Tampa Bay does have a better goalie in the series, but I think when you look at Toronto, they've been really good as of late. Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, all that firepower is going to give Tampa Bay problems, and I think that they might even give Boston problems. But right now, we're going to go Toronto. I do think Toronto wins in 6 games. I think Toronto wins in 6. I don't think the series goes 7. I think Toronto's going to take care of business this time, and that's scary. Moving on to the Metropolitan Division, Carolina versus the Islanders. The Islanders barely snuck into the playoffs. They're obviously the first wild card because the Panthers lost to the Hurricanes. I think that the Hurricanes have been reeling in the wrong way. They've been under 500 in the month of April. They're not the same offensively without Andrei Svechnikov, and they are 30th in goals per game since Svechnikov went down. And what does that mean? They're still a really good defensive team. They have 2 defenders, Brady Shea and Brent Burns, 2 of the leading goal scorers for a defenseman. And I think that Carolina is one of those teams that just doesn't go away. And I think when you look at the Islanders, they're a team built for the playoffs. They obviously brought in the offensive firepower with Bo Horvat. Matt Barzal might come back for this series. And I think Ilya Sorokin's obviously the better goalie. He's one of the best goalies in the league. The Islanders seem to be a trendy pick here. I'm going to go Carolina, obviously. I mean, not obviously, honestly. I think that the Islanders just have not been consistent enough on offense, and I think Carolina plays that smothering game. I think all these are going to be the under because it's 2 goalies and Freddie Anderson and Ilya Sorokin. I think Carolina wins this in 7. I think it's a really back-and-forth series. I think the Islanders are better than their points record showed, but at the same time, I think Carolina's just a better team even without Svechnikov, and I think that they'll run into problems when they play an offensive team like the Rangers or the Devils or the Bruins. So moving on, Rangers Devils. Biases aside, I think the Rangers are a better team than the Devils. I think the Rangers have a better forward group. I think the Rangers have a better defensive group, and I think the Rangers have a better goalie. But I think the Devils win the series, and here's why I think the Devils win the series. One, I think as much as I watch the Rangers, I'm one of the biggest Rangers fans on the planet. I fully believe that the Devils are really good on 5-on-5 when teams turn it over in the neutral zone. And the Rangers are top 5 in the league in neutral zone turnovers, and that has killed them in their matchups against the Devils. 2, I think that relying on goaltending is really good. Igor Shesterkin's a better goal in the series, no doubt. Vitek Vanacek has been really good too. I think that picking the Rangers would kill me. Or picking the Devils is going to kill me. I don't think the Rangers match up well against the Devils. The Devils went 3-0-1 against the Rangers this year. You could argue they outplayed them in every game, but every game was a 1-goal game. That's what makes this series so interesting. I do think the Rangers are the better team. I also think the Rangers have everything to lose and nothing to gain. They're expected to win this series. They made the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and now they bring in Patrick Kane, Vladimir Tarasenko, Nico Mikkola, Tyler Mott's back. But then look at the Devils with Jack Hughes, Timo Meier, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt. They had the firepower on offense. Dougie Hamilton put together one of the best offensive seasons ever for a Devils defenseman. And I think that the Devils are a really fast team. I think this series does go the distance. I think that the Devils and Rangers are obviously 2 very similar teams. The Rangers obviously have more experience, which obviously helps them. As much as it hurts, I do not think the Rangers win this series. It's going to kill me saying this. I do think the Devils win in 7 games. So Devils in 7, Carolina in 7, Toronto in 6, Boston in 5. Damn, that hurt picking the Devils. Moving on, Boston, Toronto. Toronto's going to get Boston problems. Let's be clear. Toronto is a very good offensive firepower team, one of the top power plays in the league, I'm pretty sure. 25%. They kill well. They finish second. They score goals. I just think that Boston is a really good team, and I think Toronto has not made it out of the first round in a while. I think that they're not the team that beats Boston in 7. I think if there's a team that beats them, Boston in 7, we'll see, but I just can't see them beating them here. I do think they have the offensive firepower, but so does Boston. Boston has more goals per game. David Pastrnak had 61 goals. Brad Marchand can score. Jake DeBrusk can score. They have so many options. Give me Boston. 6 games. Carolina, New Jersey. I do want to pick the Devils here because I think that offensive teams are going to give Carolina problems, especially when Andrei Svechnikov is not around. But 2 things really go against it. The first isn't that valid of an argument. It's experience because the Devils are not that experienced, but at the same time, the Rangers weren't experienced and they made the Eastern Conference Finals. But I think the other valid one is Carolina is a very, very good defensive team. They've had the Devils numbered this year. I think that Freddie Anderson's the better goalie in this series, and the Carolina could still score. Let's get that right. Just because they don't have Stanley Cup doesn't mean they can't score. They still have Martin Nietzsche. They still have Sebastian Aho. Obviously, they can score. I think this series goes 6 games. I think that Carolina is going to have a really tough time with the Devils, but I do think they'll beat them. So give me Carolina in 6 games. Then moving on, Boston, Carolina. This is where I think offensive firepower is going to not pay off. Boston's one of the best offensive teams in the league, obviously. I think they'll have Carolina pretty easily, actually. I do think this goes 5 or 6 games. I'm going to go 6 because I just can't see an Eastern Conference Finals going 5 game. I think that Boston just has every edge over Carolina. Carolina is a very stout defensive team that smothers you. There's one team that does it better, and it's Boston. So if Boston is better at Carolina's strengths, it's hard to see them winning. So give me Boston. Okay, Eastern Conference Finals. Stanley Cup Finals. Edmonton, Boston. I really want to pick Edmonton here. They have the offensive firepower, but there's a few things that work against me. I just think Boston's way too good. Boston just put together the best regular season ever. If they win the Stanley Cup, they'll put together the best season ever. I think that Boston has the better goaltender. Linus Ullmark, he's going to win the Vezina. I think that when you look at Boston, they have if any team can match Edmonton in offensive firepower, it is Boston with Pastrnak, Marchand, and all these guys. They're towards the top of the league in power play, which also makes Edmonton so good, but Boston's up there too. I just find it really hard to see a team beating Boston in 7. They don't really lose a lot of games. They only lost 12 games in regulation. Edmonton's going to need to be very defensively stout, which I just don't know if I could see from them. But that, again, it's a Stanley Cup, so you never know. But I do think Boston is the most complete team. They sort of seem like a team of destiny. Jim Montgomery has done such a good job there. I'm going to go with the Boston Bruins winning the Stanley Cup in 6 games. And so there are my predictions. Hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully the Rangers win this whole thing, but who knows? And then total goals in the Stanley Cup final. It's going to be an offensive final. I'd probably say around 38. Because what's that? 38 divided by around 5 a game? Yeah, no, that sounds right. So, guys are my predictions. Let's come back to them during the playoffs. But that's all, guys. Enjoy.